For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Earlier this month, the University of Minnesota Duluth men's hockey team beat Notre Dame, securing the Bulldogs' second NCAA Division I championship. Governor Dayton proclaimed Wednesday, April 18th to be UMD Men's Hockey National Champions Day. Here's that press conference.
Go Bulldogs. Put that there first. They point out it's not a goalie stick, but well, this is a very, very exciting morning for me and for Minnesota. You know, the UMD Bulldogs won their first national championship my first year as governor, and now they've won their second my last year as governor. Both happen to be at Xcel Arena. Coach said, well, you got to get back to Xcel. And I said, yeah, but you're not going to get back with me, so you're on your own now. But I watched both the semifinal and the final games on TV. I'm not able to go to sporting events anymore and get bounced around, but I watched them both. And in the middle of the second period of the first game, I screamed so loud that one of my dogs jumped up and started licking me in the face. So I had to restrain myself a little bit more. But I was like all of us rooting all the way, and it was just phenomenal to think they beat Ohio State and Notre Dame, the two largest, best funded athletic operations, collegiate athletic operations in the country. Ohio State and Notre Dame, just phenomenal. And I give so much credit to Coach Sunderland, who built the team and led the team, and it's just been phenomenal. And we're all very proud and very honored that you would come down today to help us celebrate with you. So with that, President Kaler.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Governor. It was 11 days ago. I was at the Xcel Arena. I am able to go to athletic events. In fact, I'm somewhat required to go to athletic events in my job. The Bulldogs go ahead 2-0, then it's 2-1, and then hang on. And they did. The UMD fans that were there were absolutely going crazy. I think every Minnesota fan who was there was going crazy. It was really fun, and I'm happy to be able to be with you today to celebrate. And so on behalf of the entire University of Minnesota system, congratulations to our athletic director, our coach, and a terrific team. Go Bulldogs. With that, let me introduce you to the athletic director at the University of Minnesota Duluth, Josh Barlow.
Thank you, President Gaylor. Thank you, Governor Dayton. Such a proud moment for our state to have the championship hosted here in St. Paul, in Minnesota. So proud of our fans. We definitely want to thank all of the fans that were in attendance. That was absolutely a home ice advantage and something that lifted our great student athletes and staff to accomplish such an achievement. Wonderful for our campus, for our university, and always for the state of hockey. So proud of that and appreciative of the support from the legislative officials who help make these things possible. It means a lot, and keeping these types of trophies in a state with our identity is a really, really special thing. So with that, we wish to express our thanks to all of you and to honor this, and to turn it over now to the person who makes it all happen and coaches these great young men with a lot of young Minnesotans on the team, head coach Scott Sandelin.
Thank you. Obviously, exciting again to be here. Did this 7 years ago. It doesn't get old, I can tell you that. But no, it was certainly a very interesting year for our team. I think, you know, to end up being national champions was certainly unexpected by a lot of people. But we had certainly a big turnover and a lot of young players coming in. But I really enjoyed watching that group grow. And our coaching staff did a great job. My assistants, everybody we had a lot of fun with the group. They played, they were a fun group to watch. They really came on in the second half and put 4 great games together. Obviously, 3 of them had the same kind of MO, get up, hold on, make it work. But just an exciting time for our program. I'm super excited for our players, especially our seniors, our community, our alumni, all the things that go with when you win a national championship. So just really appreciate the privilege to come down here and spend some time here and be honored here. So thank you for that, and go Bulldogs.
Representative Murphy represents part of the area, and from Hermantown, which of course is his own hockey power, and the coach you live in Hermantown. So, you want to say a few words?
Coach Sandelin, we are so proud. Josh Berlow, we are so proud of what you've done and the honor that you bring. But Hermantown constituents and citizens are so proud of UMD and all of UMD, but especially the hockey UMD that brings us this national attention. But there are people from all over the state that trek down to the cities for the games, and they were so proud to have driven home at 2:30 in the morning as winners. And that has been expressed to me many times over the last 2 weeks. And so it's something to cherish, and it's something to share. And we share it with our campuses across the state. And UMD is where it's at for academics and for sports.
You know, there were almost 19,000 people attended the game, and a lot of it came from Duluth, including the brother of one of my staff members who goes to UMD, and he had a flat tire on the way back. But his mother was actually relieved because that meant he missed the after parties as a result. So I am very proud to, I won't read all of this, but to turn this over to President Kaler and say that on behalf of the people of Minnesota, I exercise my authority to declare today UMD Men's Hockey National Champions Day throughout the state of Minnesota. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Governor. These are terrific young men we're honoring today, terrific coaches, terrific staff. So we are very, very grateful for this proclamation, and on behalf of the university and the University of Minnesota Duluth, we thank you and accept this with pride.
Questions on this subject?
Governor, do you think the big win will have any economic benefits for the state of Minnesota?
Well, 18,000 people down here for the finals certainly had an economic benefit for St. Paul. I mean, anything that puts Minnesota on the national radar screen is definitely beneficial. I've always said 10 times more people read the sports pages than the front page, and they care 10 times more about it. So, you know, the wide visibility, and, you know, college hockey, like pro hockey, has now become a national sport and gets that kind of national attention. So UMD did themselves proud, but they also did the state of Minnesota proud.
Anything else on this topic?
How close did you come to this at Yale?
Well, you know, there were a couple of, it was back in Yale, you know, showing that miracles do occasionally happen. Yale won the national championship a couple years ago, and they played UMD in the semifinals, whenever it was. And so people asked me, well, who are you rooting for? And I said, well, I'm for the Bulldogs. But no, I'm for the Minnesota teams all the way. My alma mater is ancient history, and it's very, very proud. I was glad that there's not another Minnesota team in the tournament. That puts me in a little awkward position. But when they're playing Ohio State or Notre Dame, hey, cheering all the way.
Coach Sandelin, you have a very young team. It surprised a lot of people by winning the championship this year. How do things look for next year? Step up to the mic, if you would.
Well, we'll see who's around.
Step up to the mic.
Obviously, it's like at the end of every year, you see who's going to leave early or not. So we already lost one in Joey Anderson, but very excited about next year. We're excited about the nucleus coming back, obviously, with the young players and certainly our recruits that are coming in. So, but we know it, like every year, it's going to be extremely hard, and the expectations always continue to go up when you win. So, but we're looking forward to it, and we're excited about our group.
And I understand today your players are in class rather than being here, is that right?
Yep, they were in class. I actually asked one of our assistant captains to come. He said he had too much class, and plus I don't think he wanted to get up at 6:30 in the morning to come down here, so.
Coach, can you talk a little bit more about what made the difference for your team?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, like every year, teams go through ups and downs. I mean, we knew it was going to be a bit more challenging with what we lost last year. We were excited about, obviously, the incoming freshmen, but we had a lot of question marks early in the year. We lost our starting goaltender. We lost 5 of our defensemen. We lost 6 of our top 8 scorers. So you go in with some question marks, and very, very rarely so. I think a lot of people there was doubt for a lot of people. Maybe not in our locker room or not with the coaching staff, but I thought our young players, we knew we were going to play them. They were going to be able to grow. We had a good nucleus of forwards and older guys, a good mix, and we had great leadership that really developed over the year. Carson Kuhlman was an outstanding captain for us. Parker Mackay was our assistant captain. And those guys went through some frustration early, as did the coaching staff, trying to figure out how to navigate through the year. But I think Christmas time, before Christmas, when we beat Omaha, was an important win before break. And then to go to the Christmas tournament minus the 5 guys that were at the World Junior Tournament brought our team a little closer together. And then we got healthy, which we weren't necessarily healthy in the first half, and the chemistry, and we got on some runs. And I really think that Christmas time was important for our team. And I think the trust and the confidence continued to grow. But I think the ups and downs were good. And quite frankly, the way we got into the tournament, the .0001, which you see everywhere, which is probably going to be on the back of a T-shirt somewhere, was probably the best thing, because it really made our guys appreciate the second opportunity, or maybe not getting that opportunity, and helped us kind of get refocused quickly. But I give our players a lot of credit for that, because that's not easy. And we didn't come out of our frozen face-off tournament. When you lose 2 games, usually history says you don't win the next one. And it didn't look very good against Mankato, but they battled back and got the job done. So that's what kind of team we had, and really proud of them.
Good on this topic?
I would just say close wins, in the long run don't count. The win is what counts. So I can speak from experience. All right, if you want to join me back in the...
I was going to suggest a quick picture around the trophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe with the proclamation.
Why don't you... you want to hold it, or...
You want us around here?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, yeah.
Jesse Dickens offered to let me hold her gold medal. I'm not worthy. Plus it was too heavy, so why don't you take the trophy there? You want to take the trophy, or? Sure. That's heavy.
There you go, Pat.
Vice President?
Here, I'll hold the proclamation.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, everybody good?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, other subjects.
Governor, a number of Republican chairmen this morning proposing to take some of the excess money in the state reserve accounts in the U.S. Bank Stadium to apply it towards building 3 veterans homes across the state, Preston, Montevideo, and Overdue. But anyhow, 3 veterans homes. Do you have a position on that yet?
Well, I support veterans strongly, and I support what's been in the past been discussed, a veteran home. But each we did an analysis of this before the session began. And each, correct me if my numbers are wrong, but each building, each facility would cost $62 million, and the state share of that would be 35%. So we're talking about $22 million per facility. So there's $66 million right there. They're talking about taking $26 million out of the reserve fund, which is that right, the number? Brings it down below, no? Brings it down below the 30 million bare minimum, Commissioner Francis. But, it's another one of these legislative meddlings in the operation of the executive branch. If we have a problem, then they're all over us. When something's doing well, like the stadium and the reserve fund there, and building a sound fiscal foundation, then they want to raid the money. If they want to fund these, and it's about $10 million a year to operate one of these, so we're talking about $30 million a year expenditure for operations, then they need to come up with the money. Otherwise, it's just a political gimmick. So they got a lot of support for it. A lot of veterans groups, and a lot of veterans themselves are very, very anxious for these facilities. And as I said before, there was going to be one was what was discussed, and somebody was going to have to make the decision about which community got that. So the easy way out was to say 3. But the finances just aren't responsible yet. And if they want to do it, then they need to appropriate sufficient money to build them and to operate them.
So should that you put in money into your bonding bill, didn't you, for operations of veterans, $36 million?
Yeah.
Would you add money to build these homes? Is that one way to do this?
That's certainly, yes, one way. Although that money is designated for the 4 facilities we have now and for their basic upkeep, and some of them are in significant need of repair. So again, I mean, you're going to build 3 more and let the 4 existing ones deteriorate. That's not a solution either. But yeah, it could be bonded.
So should the stadium reserve funds stay for their intended purpose? Or if the fund keeps growing, I know they had a similar situation with the Twin Stadium Reserve, what should be done with that money?
Well, I defer to the Stadium Authority, and Chairman Mike Vekich is a CPA, and he's very knowledgeable. I don't know the details of their financial situation, but I know, much to some people's surprise a couple of years ago, the fund has been building. Much to people's surprise, electronic pull tabs have turned out to be profitable. So, they're building up a proper reserve, but, you just never know what's going to be needed. And to have a strong sound fiscal cushion is in an operation of that size just makes sense. Somebody else starts throwing rocks at the glass windows or whatever else unexpectedly occurs. Fortunately, I thought the other day if we had still had the dome, that roof would have caved in with the weight of the snow for sure. So I mean, it's a structurally sound facility, and just pull it away without, as far as I know, prior discussion with the Stadium Authority or with Commissioner Franz, it makes it less incredible.
Is it a political choice they're asking you to make between the Vikings and veterans?
I don't think, it shouldn't be. It's not either or, and they're not related. I mean, I think they just try and, it's like some of the other things, they were trying to just come up with, free money so they can keep to their rhetoric about no spending increases and tax increases, et cetera. If they want to do it, I'll support that if it's fiscally properly accounted for. So we're not just fooling people out there. And we're not going to get anywhere with the federal government, who needs to approve for the other 50% they approve, and 15% is local. If we don't have a sound proposal, we're just putting it in for show. And again, I think the veterans of Minnesota deserve more than that, deserve better than that. And again, I've supported virtually everything that has been proposed by veterans groups and by legislators and by myself to improve our support for veterans in Minnesota, and I stand by that, but we paid for it all the way in an honest, upfront way.
For those who will inevitably say that the Democrats don't support veterans, who respond to the
look at the facts. Just look at the facts. The veterans' concerns have been supported bipartisan. I think it's one of the least partisan political issues in the legislature, because everyone has veterans among their constituents, and everybody recognizes the sacrifices they've made, the risks they've taken for the benefit of our state, our country. So, I mean, I don't see it as anybody who's trying to make it a partisan issue is really stretching way over the border.
Have you talked to General Sheldo about this?
Sorry?
Has General Sheldo talked to you about this?
We talked earlier in the year, and they were involved in developing the cost estimates. Frankly, this kind of popped up again, so I will have another discussion with him, but a number of little things just popping up now that it's a reckoning time.
Governor, I know you addressed this yesterday. Could you talk about the Republicans citing the Department of Revenue's estimates on the effect of your tax proposal, especially
Well, my mother, when we were as kids, she's like really out of line. She'd glare at us and say, you have a lot of nerve. I mean, for them to be criticizing my tax proposal, first of all, which is progressive, cuts personal income taxes for 2.2 million Minnesotans, which they want to ignore, and it continues the Minnesota Care tax on providers, which then the Department of Revenue believes some of that filters then into higher costs for consumers, people who use this healthcare services, and that's what makes it regressive in Department of Revenues. Now, you can dispute that. That's the same argument they use to try to defeat the penny a pill. Well, it gets passed on to the consumer, and so you're harming the consumers, which is a convenient way to try to avoid paying anything. I mean, you can contribute anything like that. Corporate taxes, I mean, they make that case as well. So I don't necessarily buy into that, but that's the sole basis for making it more regressive, because it's not progressive the way people use healthcare in Minnesota. So I mean, it's a contrivance. It's not, statistics can be accurate but invalid, and in this case, you got, as I said, the state income tax reductions speak for themselves. And finally, as I said yesterday, where are their tax bills? The clock is ticking. We're down to less than 5 weeks remaining, and neither one of us even put a tax bill out for public scrutiny. They're happy to keep theirs hidden and keep whacking away at mine. But where are their tax bills? And when are we going to see them? And when are they going to put them through the process of their committees, and then floor debates, and then conference committee? Because as I told the legislative leaders yesterday, I'm not going to negotiate with two bodies separately. You're a co-equal branch of government. You are a co-equal branch as the legislature, not as the House and as the Senate. You've got to resolve your differences, come up with one bill and a conference report, pass that from the House and Senate, and then we'll sit down and negotiate. And we'll get feedback certainly during the course of that testimony in committees and the like, but they're just shirking their responsibilities in this past time. They've passed 3 bills so far, one of which was to fund themselves, way behind the timetable for other previous legislatures, including in the short session. So they got to get to work.
Governor, these folks up in the rotunda, when they hear are wanting stricter gun measures, that's not looking very likely. Are you frustrated by that?
I'm frustrated. I'm not surprised. I predicted that at the very beginning when both leaders came out a minute after the proposals were made and said that it's not going to happen. It's just the writing's on the wall. So until people who vote reject that stance, it'll continue, unfortunately.
Everyone good? You would probably support the safe schools part of the bills.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I proposed good parts of it, and I mean, I think there's bipartisan agreement there that we want to do whatever we can that's feasible to protect our students. That should not be a political or partisan issue.
Everyone good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.